You can't. Frank's
Look,
in.
there's Frank.
Yeah, but you have to just turn just a little because that light behind you, like
Lisa's
Frank's
giving me
got light.
lighting advice.
Frank has got the lighting in front of him. That's why Frank is so bright and you're so dark. You got to get lighting in front of you. Can you just turn, Prince?
Turn how? I don't.
Can you? I had to move my whole not. I don't want to see all that shit on your nightstand though.
That's my water and shit. Hmm.
It's more than water and shit. It's a bunch of shit.
Well, you know. Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good
Maybe if I
morning.
move the camera closer.
I have my Boston T-shirt on. Very irrelevant, but hey, it does say tour 1979. So I figured the tour probably drug into the 80s. I don't know.
Uh,
What's the thing I had?
I thought that the tour, the Boston shirt, was an homage to Big Pappy getting shot
ah,
in the
I don't know
Dominican
who Big
Republic,
Pappy is, and I
and
don't know
in
any
the
of who he
Dominican
is.
Republic,
baseball player.
and how
Oh,
and how the Boston Red Sox said, "Oh no 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 no, we got to send you a plane."
Yeah, yeah, they brought him right back here.
They,
That's true.
it's,
Everybody loves that dude. I don't know. I don't know why.
I don't think
Hmm.
I'm in connection with a lot of things because I know nothing about that.
Prince, yeah, you are pretty dark, man.
You
All
got
right, all
the
right, all right.
light behind him. He can't have the light behind him.
Hold on. Jesus.
No, no, the way that you do it, Prince, is just turn on the light in front of you.
He probably doesn't have one.
Oh, there you go.
Is that any better?
I mean, it's better, but it's not as good as me and Frank.
Well, of course I'm not as good as Frank. Who's gonna be as good as Frank, right, Frank? How's that? Hmm. Is it
I
that's
mean,
not,
my
that's no
new face is
better?
in the building.
What?
My new face is in the building. I mean, what do you
Yes, that's
want?
right. Yeah. Hey. Oh yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Now you say
Frank
that.
doesn't know about it.
Yeah, Frank. Frank, did you know about that?
No.
You
Lisa's
know,
Botox and
Lisa went
fillers.
to Botox stuff.
I went all Hollywood in Atlanta, and I'm not finished. Don't worry. I go back on the 18th.
Where'd you get Botox at?
In my forehead, I could
Botox
definitely
City.
do back and forth. I have Prince already. All of these lines will be 100% gone by the next time I go. But all these lines are gone too. These were fillers. This was the expensive part and the hurting part.
When you
But
say fillers, what does that mean?
they fill you up with fucking, I don't fucking know, glue, fucking concrete. I don't know. They put some shit in here, Juvederm, and it takes the frown lines out. See? All these are gone. And my forehead was really bad. Now it's only got a few lines and cost me $1,400. And I'll be going back for about what Prince did I say I spent another 200, so I'm about three more hundred in my forehead.
I think they call that white people problems because I never thought about
See
Botox.
Botox, trust me.
We we
Trust me.
we happy to get old.
Black people do crack. Okay,
We happy to
they
get
do crack.
All right, Frank, make sure you got everything ready for the recording. So we can get this. So we can knock this out. I want to make sure it's good.
What is
I
there
love
anything
this
to
album,
say
by
on
the way.
this thing? That's the question.
Is what?
Is there going to be anything to say?
This
Or
happens to
two
be
songs?
my one of my favorite albums.
I know. I mean, I re-listened to it this morning,
One of my favorite
and
bands.
hey,
First
let me
concert
make
I
sure
ever went
y'all
to.
can hear this. Can y'all hear that?
no.
You can't
No,
hear anything,
no,
right?
no, I don't hear anything.
Unmemorable songs in my left ear, so that when we talk about them, I can actually have something to say about them.
Oh, okay. All right.
Frank, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. Hey, Prince. Hey, Lisa.
Hey,
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 let's
Frank.
let's talk about Garfunkel. I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah. Let's talk about Bud Abbott. No. All right.
Oh, I get it.
Right.
We're talking about duos.
Right. Right.
Okay.
We're
All
talking about
right.
we're talking about duos that you really only paid attention to the guy that was up front, the guy that made you laugh. Um, and so we can talk about a whole bunch of music duels. We can talk about Simon and Garfunkel. So Simon and Garfunkel. Well, okay, listen. It really wasn't relevant until Paul Simon did Graceland, and that changed
Good
everything.
point.
Because without Paul Simon's Graceland, then we don't get Peter Gabriel's So, and that's the quintessential.
Okay, all right,
You
all
know,
right.
it's listen. Where else can you have South Africans winning Grammys, right?
Diamonds on the soles of your shoes.
That, that
That's what I remember from that
that's
album.
exact. You know,
Okay, a
I just
classic.
remember. I remember 30 black people standing on a stage on Saturday Night Live humming, humva, humva, humva.
Ugh.
And then that was the end. That's when Garfunkel took his Afro pick and just said, "I'm done. I'll
Uh,
do a tour
uh,
with John Oates." And then we got Oates and Garfunkel. And who
ah.
is this John Oates that we talk about, Prince? Let's talk
John Oates
about
has to
Oates.
be a part of the greatest duo in the history of music. Probably the greatest songwriting duo in the history of pop music.
Or
And
trio.
yeah, our
I would say
trio.
trio. Yeah, I would say trio. It was Daryl Hall, and John Oates.
What about Jana, the female that wrote a lot of their songs?
Oh boy. Oh boy. Would
Lisa, yeah,
would
I'm
you
gonna
just
like
be
you on
doing
this one,
Trump?
Lisa.
Because
Lisa, you look
Frank was
great
saying the
today.
same thing.
Lisa, you look
Our
great
country
today.
doesn't get credit.
Huh?
Lisa, you look good today, Lisa. You look good
Hey!
today. Mama, where you at? Where you at? Are you in Paris? I'm looking at the Tour Eiffel in the
That's
background.
Prince's favorite picture.
I'm
This is
looking.
Ode to Prince. But yes, in Paris.
Are you in Boston? Let's see some. Let's see some Boston.
Some boobies, Frank.
Let's see
Quit
some.
trying to
Let's
be
see.
like.
I'm trying. I'm trying. I'm trying to
I
get what I
brought
can
my
get.
Farrah Fawcett hair for the '80s.
There you go.
Didn't bring my Farrah Fawcett body. Sorry, I'll have to buy that, and I don't have that right
So I'm in a little bit before we start off this podcast on one of the '80s more interesting
Quintessential.
albums, right? Before we start on that, I'm a little insulted, Prince, because I have yet to do my spot on Lisa's '90s music, and you guys know about listen. I'm going to link Teddy Riley to Big Bam Boom, whether you want to or not.
now. Oh, now I know.
Don't tell me you ain't got no legs. Dance on your knees. Okay.
Listen, and I know sequencing is coming somewhere
Right,
along the way too.
exactly. Lisa, how's the show going?
It's going great. Thanks for asking. We're saving something special for you, Frank.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to. I will fly up to Atlanta when I can do the one-on-one in studio interview with Damian Hall. So
Oh,
that's the one that I want. That's the
another connection to Teddy Riley.
yeah. Well,
How
listen,
fast it happened.
listen. That's Lisa. You know Teddy, so or you know people who
We're
know
into
Teddy
this 10 minutes, and Teddy Riley's already come up already.
more times than John Oates. So Prince,
Right.
right. I've just given Teddy more time on our Hall and Oates podcast than Daryl gave Oates on in their entire career.
Ooh.
Um, John Oates wrote a lot of great songs that that helped make the group. So he's not going to be. He's not. Your attempt to insult him is, please.
Okay,
Not happening.
Yeah,
quick,
right.
quick,
Exactly. Show some respect.
quick, Prince. We know Hall and Oates is one of your favorite '80s bands, and we're gonna
That's
get
right.
to their seminal
Very first
album.
concert I ever went to was a Hall and Oates concert. It was them and the Hooters was the opening act of all groups. I don't know if y'all remember them.
I
The
remember the
people that
Hooters.
played some kind of
Yeah,
strange.
yeah.
Na, 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 na. I
One
don't
hit.
remember the name
Yeah,
of the
one
song.
hit. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
one
one
hit
hit.
wonders.
It's one hit.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
No.
yeah, and that was at the New Orleans World's Fair in I forget the year, but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Daryl Hall
listen.
and John.
Hall and Oates is playing Ishmael and Huskba's bar mitzvah 2 blocks down.
Very funny, very
They'll
funny.
be set
Oh
up
no, so
next to the
still
bouncy
touring, by the
stage.
way.
They'll be set up next to the
Listen,
bouncy
listen.
stage.
John Oates had the best images in the videos. He was dancing far more than Daryl Hall. He was jamming. He was all over the stage. So, and he had the best mustache of the
He
century.
had the porn stash.
All right.
He had the
So
porn
That
they,
mustache
stash.
was in a cartoon, but they even made a cartoon about his
I can
mustache.
right.
right, there's a
That's
superpower.
but not about that abandoned luncheonette album.
All right, so okay. Um,
So cool.
That was the last album
Tommy
that.
Mottola, Tommy Mottola loved it and loved them.
Right.
So
Right.
let's
Yeah.
show some respect for the legends,
Yeah.
man. Let's show some respect for the
The
legends.
man that made Mariah Carey cry. There you go. You're gonna bring him into
I'm
this.
sure many made her
Right.
cry after.
Right. You know.
Yes, he was Tommy Mottola was their manager. He was their manager when he was like 22 years old. He
That's
kind of discovered them and
put
brought Daryl Hall and John Oates to their fame. He was like a third member of the group, to quote them.
made them new wave, right? Brought them into the new wave era, and brought them out of the '70s era and brought them into the new wave era. And what did he do? He did what every record label owner prominently has always done, whether it's Berry Gordy or Lou Silas or any of those, record moguls. They say to a duo, he should be in front. And now we get to Hall and Oates, Big Bam Boom. So, Lisa Prince, you want to give us some of the meta on Big Bam Boom? When did it come out, and what was the release like?
Lisa, you want to handle this, or you want me to handle
No way, this is your favorite group.
it?
I mean, I'll
Okay,
I'll
all
pull
right.
up
This
Wikipedia
album,
with the best album. You go
um,
ahead.
I think 1984. This album came out in 1984. The album they had before
I
this
think a little later,
was
little later than '84.
really.
Yeah,
You sure? Okay, well,
No, it was 1984, released
yeah,
by
it was 80. Yeah, 1984.
October 12th, 1984.
right.
Yes, it
Oh,
was.
that's right. It was after their best hits.
Their greatest hits album came out before this one.
Right. That's right. It was after.
Right,
That's right.
right,
That's right.
1983, and that was called Rock and Soul Part One. I don't think they ever did a Rock and Soul Part Two, but it was called Rock and Soul Part One. The interesting part about this, the thing that becomes important about that album, is they did two songs on that album. One was I can't go for that, which by the way,
For
Michael Jackson credits for inspiring him to do Billie Jean for some strange reason,
right.
and also Adult Education, which happens to be the name of this podcast.
It was adult education, but it was another song. It wasn't I Can't Go For That, because I Can't Go For That goes back to before H2O.
Then what was the song? What was the
It
other
was
song
another.
on
It
that
was
album?
another. It was
Say It Isn't So.
Say It Is. Yes, Say It Isn't So.
Say
It
It
was
Isn't
Say It
So.
Isn't So. It was
Okay,
Say
yeah,
It
Say It
Isn't So.
Isn't So.
Say It Isn't
So then,
So.
Okay.
Prince, what you're saying is, without Daryl Hall and John Oates, there would be no podcast,
No,
No,
right?
there would be no
no,
podcast
we
named
would
Adult
we would
Education.
call it.
Right.
We
So
would
there may
call,
not be a
no,
podcast.
we would call it Hungry Like the '80s.
Right.
Oh, that's
Right,
a good one.
right. We would call it
Right.
something.
West End Boys or some
Right,
shit
right.
like that.
We would call
West
it
End
right,
Boys from the 80s.
right. You know, '80s Clock of the Heart, something like that. We would call it. Everybody wants to rule the '80s, but okay,
Okay.
all right. So let's
Just let me
Big Ben. Go ahead.
back to that in
Finish
just
your
to
spiel. Finish your
yeah.
spiel
Let
about
me
Hall and
finish
Oates.
finish my spiel about
The white,
this.
the,
Okay.
the blue-eyed,
White Soul.
the
Oh,
white soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what they did. Yeah,
Yeah. Um.
from Philly, right?
Right. Yeah. From
Yeah, from Philly.
Philadelphia.
So is Benny
They
Siegel.
had
So is Benny
that
Siegel, by the way.
that song "Adult Education" was produced by Nile Rodgers and Bob Clearmountain. That is when they decided to kind of change their sound and get deeper into. I wanted a kind of a hip hop, more drum based kind of sound. They started it on that song Adult Education, and then when they went into this Big Bam Boom album, they just fully embraced it, and and that's why we ended
And
up
real
with.
quick, Prince, for the listeners who don't know, Nile Rodgers, producer extraordinaire, has more number one hits and is more responsible for number one hits than almost anybody else in history. Was just inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Um, Gave you everybody from Chic to the best hits from Diana Ross, Sister Sledge, and then start to bring it current. Let's Dance, David Bowie, the Reflex remix, Wild Boys, and I think View to Kill by not View to Kill, Notorious by Duran Duran, and even up to these days with Daft Punk and Pharrell. So
Yeah.
amazing. He is on tour right now with Cher. So he is on tour with
Really.
Cher, and after doing absolute sellout shows, went to his shows. Bob Clearmountain is an audio engineer that really got his legs underneath him by introducing the world to these big, loud, brash drums, right? Lots
Right.
of reverbs, lots of pop, bop, and then lots of reverse sounds on the drums, and to the point, all of you producers and musician types, you'll recognize Bob Clearmountain from. He actually has a whole line of samples and a whole line of equipment that which is the Bob Clearmountain sound to get that sound, and that sound is incredibly reminiscent on adult education, right? It's now we're going to put you into, at this time it was a Synclavier or a Fairlight, and we would sample you and then just put lots of reverb around you, and apparently that wasn't enough, so Hall & Oates decided to do a whole album based on sampling
Bob Clearmountain sound.
big,
Right.
right, big reverb, right, and then it's moving into the whole Shep Pettibone, and we talked about this with George Michael,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah, George
just
Michael.
and that was you can hold the note as long as I can twitch my hand, and that was Big Bam Boom, which was 1984 was a horrible year to put out albums because at 1984 you were competing against Thriller, you were competing against um, Duran Duran there. You were competing against Michael Jackson. I said Thriller. You were competing against Born in the USA. You were competing against Like a Virgin. You were competing against just a ton of just great music. 1984
That,
by Van Halen. I mean,
right.
that's a hard time to put out some albums there.
But I will say this. I mean, the people they got to work on that album. I mean, starting with Bob Clearmountain. I mean, Bob Clearmountain worked on. He was involved with Born in the USA. He was involved with also that year Private Dancer by Tina Turner, and also Songs from the Big Chair by
Tears for Fears.
yeah, Tears for Fears.
which
So
will be which will be highlighted. I think one of our last episodes of the season will be Tears for Fears, songs from the
all
Big
right.
Chair. Yeah, yeah.
And they just came off a tour together, by the way.
Okay.
Um,
Bob Clare Mountain
the,
and Tears for Fears.
no, Hall and Oates and Tears for Fears. Hall
Boy,
and Oates went out with Tears for Fears.
so
So
Tears for
yeah.
Fears are playing state fairs now.
Your rudeness and disrespect for
Is something.
Hall and Oates is ridiculous. All right,
Hmm.
let's are we gonna let's are we gonna go through these songs one by one?
Let's go
Are we
through
gonna
these
give
songs.
the right?
Let's go through these songs. So, do I need to take out the MPC 2000 because that's the only way that you get a track dance on your knees, right? Right? Which is, let me tell you something. It's the first time on this album that we hear Daryl Hall speak is when he's doing his best Sambo impersonation. Don't tell me
There
you ain't got no legs. Dance on your knees. If that's not Sambo, what? But it's it's
Oh,
it's very incredible to me, Prince, that this. Very incredible that you spent an entire podcast bashing a musical genius for the misappropriation of black culture, right? But you let these two guys get a pass,
I
especially
can
when the
tell you.
first song is a Sambo reference.
I
Dance
can
on
tell
your
you. Wait, whoa,
knees.
whoa, 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 whoa. Because I know you're talking about Billy Joe. Okay, there's a big difference between Hall and Oates and Billy Joe,
Okay.
because Hall and Oates, unlike Billy Joe, have an actual respect for the culture. Hall and Oates, when they
Wide-eyed,
decided to
wide-eyed
do,
soul from Philly.
let me right, Blue Eyed Soul from Philly, when they decided to do this album, another producer they had for this album was Baker, the hip hop guy, the guy who worked with Africa Bambaataa, who did
So
Planet
that
Rock.
justifies it more?
Yeah.
Just because they pulled a
Plus,
black guy in?
plus, they also,
Thank
you
you,
know,
Lisa.
did a whole album with the Temptations after Apollo, as opposed to Billy Joe, who just decided, hey, I like the way these songs sounds. I'm not going to give credit to anyone who actually was involved in making them. I'm just gonna steal them and act like I did it. But
So,
that's a
first
whole
of
different
all,
podcast.
first of all, you're giving fake news like you always give.
Fake news.
I
Fake
love
news.
fake news.
First of all, they didn't do a show with the Temptations. They did the show with Eddie Kendricks and David Ruffin, who were ex-Temptations, who, might I add, David Ruffin without the Temptations is some fake-ass Temptations, right? So that's all fake news. And so what did they do in that concert? They filled in for the other Temptations. That's not appropriations. But let's get back to Don't Tell Me You Ain't Got No Legs. Dance on Your Knees.
Listen, that was the weirdest intro. Y'all want to talk about preludes and Bobby Brown's preludes? Like, I have never really listened to this whole record, and now I have like two or three times. And that beginning
Right.
was so weird. It was very weird. I don't know. At least unnecessary.
It's
Honestly.
something, you know, what made it even worse about the Dance on Your Knees is that what it obviously was leftover tracks from the second track, which we'll be talking about, that were remixed, and just the drums were back and forth stereo left and right, and then they don't even have the common decency to stop the song. They just let it flow.
Oh, it runs it right
It
in. It's the
runs
best
right in.
flow ever, though.
Which,
It's the
which,
best
which,
flow.
listen, that bothers me, especially when I like to listen on things like Shuffle, right? Mr. Sequence. Yes, I do like to listen to albums that we review
Oh man, that
on
must have been
Shuffle.
tough on Shuffle.
I listen
That's
to them on Shuffle
tough.
because I think that I want to listen to how some of the youngins would be listening to it. And the problem with listening to it on Shuffle is that all of a sudden you have an abrupt start to the second song, and arguably one of the biggest hits on the album. Prince, why don't you tell us what that is?
Before I go into that, I have a couple of other things I need to say.
About
All
about
right.
about dancing on your
About
knees.
on your knees?
By the way, what does that mean? Dance on your knees. Is that a oral sex euphemism from? Is
Actually, it was a
right?
actually.
Or did we happen to catch Daryl Hall in the studio yelling at John Holtz? Hey, nigga, don't tell me you ain't got no legs. Dance on your knees, nigga. Right? Is that what he was
I
doing?
hope you didn't say that N-word because that could have, problematic.
What?
With the producer from Africa Bambaataa.
Oh, yeah. Well, right. That was the right. I don't know who he was talking to. I doubt he's talking to the producer from. He was just. He was complaining that his latte was cold,
This
Lisa,
was
and John
this
Oates
album.
didn't bring him a good latte at the time.
Right.
I'm sorry.
This album,
Wasn't doing anything else.
Right. Right.
album-
Right. You want anything else, Daryl?
lady and gentlemen, okay.
Right.
This album was a hip hop album.
Oh,
Okay,
here you
this
go.
was
But
their version.
no appropriation there. No
This was their
appropriation.
version. Well, I mean, the history of Daryl Hall and John Oates has always been a respect for the black music that was going on at that time. Okay, and so at this time, since their ears have always been to the streets, they have always changed with the times. That's one of the things about Daryl Hall and John Oates. They have always, their music, even though they're awesome songwriters, great, exceptional songwriters, they have always written songs and music based on the times. And they could feel, anybody who was in the streets of New York at that time could feel the rise of big drums, big beats coming. and they just got ahead of that. That's all. But whatever. All right, let's get back. Let's get back to the album
I
because we're
love
only on
I
song
love
number two.
I love how
Jesus.
And we haven't even started to
I,
yet.
I, I, I,
Right.
I love how you said the man that wants to single-handedly eradicate deer from the population of
The
North
man
America
has Lyme
just
disease. He
because he got
caught
a
Lyme
tick and he got
disease
Lyme
from
He
a
disease, so
wants to
he wants to
deer.
eradicate deer
he wants
because
to
he
kill
got
all
Lyme
deer.
disease.
Look it
The
up
whole
on the
family
internet.
got Lyme disease.
Look it up
Okay.
on the look it up on the internet. So he's in the woods. Has people are known to do make America great, and
Uh,
he was out in the
You
woods.
love to make America great.
Right, right.
Like,
He was out in the woods.
Obviously, you don't know much about Daryl Hall. Okay. Yes, he has Lyme disease.
Yep.
Okay.
Yes,
He
he
has
wants
nothing
to
to do with.
eradicate deer. Less he
All right.
right,
Yes, he may want to eradicate deer,
right.
but in no way is he a supporter of Make America Great or anything like that. In fact, Daryl Hall and John Oates would not play the state of Arizona. They would do no concerts in Arizona because of their restrictive immigration laws. That is the way they roll as Daryl Hall and John Oates.
There's
But
also
can we get to the next song?
no state fair in Arizona. Okay, so right.
No state fair in Arizona. You are so mean, dude. That's fucked up. Funny, but fucked up. But go ahead.
Let's talk
Let's.
about
I
so
wish I got it.
it's
He
Let's see,
saying,
this part of my hair didn't get
right.
it. This part of
right.
my hair might have, but this part did not.
Just
He
It went
all
way
right.
over my head.
out of touch.
Keeps saying that Daryl Hall and John Oates only play state fairs. So so we talk
I
about
love Daryl and John Oates. I'm just don't know how
they
to. I
don't
wish we would
play
have
state fairs.
different
They
records.
play stadiums
I
around the world.
would,
Well,
I would go see him.
if
All right.
if they
Let,
were coming
let's
to the state fair, right? At least,
They have to come to Atlanta, but
right.
we don't have those kind of artists coming to Atlanta.
That's
uh,
right.
Just don't.
Right, because Atlanta's all about putting somebody in lock when they appropriate black music. And so Hall and Oates have no place.
So that's the type of stuff that comes to Atlanta.
all right.
Right. So
Let's continue with this album.
let's go on.
Number two.
All right.
Song number two.
Out of touch. Amazing song.
Wow. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is an
Right.
amazing song.
Uh, uh,
Great
um,
song.
I'll tell you why it's an amazing song. It is an amazing song because, you're now understand in the early 80s from 1980 from Family Man, right? And I Can't Go For That, right? Bringing it up into Man Eater and 101 and then having
What a bevy of hits.
right, and then having Say It Isn't So and Adult Education. So where could they come? They land on Out of Time. The best part about Out of Time is the urgency that Daryl Hall has when he sings that song. He's actually singing, right, and that's just something that people just don't do. He's singing with a lot of passion, singing with a lot of soul. Anybody who ever wonders what an ad lib should be should listen to the last 60 seconds of that song when you hear Daryl Hall just ad libbing, and even John
Daryl
Oates
Hall's
just
ad libs
amazing.
are legendary.
It's just
In
absolutely
almost
amazing.
every single one of his songs, he's always those last 30 seconds. He always adds a little sound, something
That's right.
to keep to make you want to play the song all over again. That's
Exactly.
that's something that they do that a lot of people don't notice. I'm glad you noticed that. The talent of
It's
that
that at Out of Time was an
Out
amazing
of Touch,
song,
by the
and
way.
Out of Touch, sorry, Out of Touch, because Out of Touch, Out of Time, Out of Touch, Out of
Right.
Time, right, all that stuff.
Right.
So, amazing song. What was interesting about this song, and so I start to think about singles as compared to earlier singles, is this marked the time that Daryl Hall stopped from behind the keys. In all the videos, he was behind the keyboard, and now he picks up a guitar. By the way, nothing worse than the guy that used to play keyboards now picking up guitars. We
Like that
talked
guitar in the background of your. I see in the background there.
exactly. It's all for show.
Right, of
It's all
course.
for show. I mean, it's like Simon Le Bon in Save a Prayer. All of a sudden, he's just picking up a guitar and singing it, right? It just doesn't work. Or Billy Joel in A Matter of Trust when he's just playing, he's playing guitar. So it's something. Or in Teddy Riley in Let's Chill, who's playing the guitar sitting on the sitting on the stool while everybody wears their horn rimmed glasses with straight frames, right? Because nobody needs glasses. And it just for some reason in the '90s, if you had a curl and you had the glasses, that just made you look smart. But Out of Touch, amazing song. And you know what's interesting about that? What's interesting about
The
that? I
song didn't have a guitar solo; it had a drum solo.
it right.
How amazing was that? It was a cue to the times.
It and if the dance on your knees was seems to be like an afterthought of what would happen if you started playing with the different sounds, right? Because that's when they started the all the elements of out of touch are actually in
Is in
dance on
that
your
right?
knees, right? And they're just mixed in Bob Clearmountain style with big reverbs and gates and stuff like that. But this is a good song, and so as the start of an album, now you're just swinging for the fences. Now you're just
Right.
saying, "I'm going to just give you singles," right? So I think it was a great song. I think it was a great song.
I think it. I think one of the things that people don't realize about Hall and Oates and about this song, I think that they helped introduce this hip hop sound to a pop audience who who would have no people don't realize how things change culturally. A lot of people don't take into consideration how things change. For example, I know this is going to sound completely irrelevant, but remember the show 24 with Jack Bauer? Jack Bauer 24 with the black president and all that kind of stuff. We never would have had Obama if there was never a 24
Huh?
movie. Because let me finish. Because you have to introduce people. You have to introduce America to things.
And Richard
Okay.
Pryor didn't do that on his show in the '80s.
Uh,
Okay, go ahead.
no, no. I mean, there's one thing. I mean, there's one. I mean, he was doing it in a joking way. This was more of a more serious way. It's just like when they started putting gay people on TV shows.
Okay,
You know, but I can say
here we
gay
go.
people. There's no offensive about that. You can put gay people. You know, you have to you introduce America to things. That's how America works. You have people as all against stuff and all this, and at that time, because you have to remember what was happening in the early '80s when rap was just starting out. People that sound was offensive to a lot of people, and one of the things Hall and Oates did was introducing that sound of course, kind of a watered down version of that sound, but introducing that sound to a group of America, to middle America, that probably would not have accepted it in any other way.
And
That's
ladies and
that's all.
gentlemen, just like that, Prince has Thanos the career of Blondie and Rapture and Fab Five Freddy and Grandmaster Flash.
You're welcome.
You just
You're
Rapture
welcome.
it,
Just
right?
like that.
Just like
Just
that.
like that. You're right. You're
Rapture
right.
didn't happen. Rapture just didn't happen in '82. You
Stop it.
just totally erased it.
I
You, you
I
just
didn't erase it.
you
I'm
just
talking
totally gave
Blondie. You
Hall and
cannot
Oates
compare
credit
The
to Blondie.
popularity of Blondie to the popularity of Daryl Hall and John Oates. Blondie
Rapture,
having one hit is
Rapture.
completely different than Daryl Hall and John Oates and their years of love from Middle America.
So
That's all I'm saying.
so yes. Yes,
Like
you did erase
Thanos,
it.
I like that. I
Yes,
get
you
to be
did.
Thanos.
Yes, you just Thanos to Blondie and Rapture and the importance of Blondie, and then you just pinned it on
I
Hall and
love
Oates,
Fat Five Freddy,
and
by
you
the way. If
just
you're
pinned
still
it on.
listening,
You
if you're
pinned
still
it.
he's still alive, right? Fat Five Freddy,
Yeah.
I love him.
Listen, we don't say nothing about Fab Five Freddy. That's bad because Fab Five Freddy will knock on your door and punch you in the mouth.
Right. Because he has nothing else to do.
Because
You're right.
right, because he's still pissed off about that Yo MTV rap thing, right?
Right.
So
Which made him relevant. So I don't know why he'd be mad about that. Artist.
Because it's not
Wow,
relevant
Yo
anymore.
MTV made Fab Five Freddy relevant. It wasn't Blondie screaming out
You
Fab
see,
Five Freddy.
she did the same
And
thing. She
she
did
just
the same
snapped
thing.
Blondie away.
She
She
Thanos
just
Blondie away
Thanos
too.
Blondie.
No one has respect for those white girls. You know how that is. Boom, gone.
There you go. Okay, so Out of Touch, Hall and
Out of
Oates.
touch.
Let's
Great
move on
song.
to arguably the one thing that this next song is absolutely famous for is one, the two things. One, teaching us niggas how to spell, right? And two, being the cornerstone of arguably the best Wu-Tang Clan song in the world.
See what I'm saying?
That's that I'll give you, right? So without Hall and Oates, right? Without Hall and Oates, there is no Get High. Without Hall and Oates, there is no 36 Chambers. Without Hall and Oates, there is no Method Man, right? And everybody that followed behind Method Man. Method of Modern Love.
That's right.
Again, really just twirly. Method of Modern Love is a song that has a great hook and nothing else.
Uh,
Okay,
Mm,
sing the rest of it.
there was a lot of
A lot of
I'll say
spelling.
that I
A lot of
listened to the
spelling,
end
right?
of it.
A lot of
There
good
was a lot of
spelling.
spelling, but the end of it was very R&B and a lot of arrangements. I have to go against that only because I listened to it a lot yesterday and I thought it was very R&B. A lot of
there you go.
arrangements and so
I don't.
There's
and
nothing.
great singing. I mean,
There's
come
Well, of
nothing
on.
course, because Sarah
memorable.
Hall has one of the best
Nothing
voices.
memorable about that song except for the
Oh,
hook. Except for
well,
the
the
hook.
hook is great, but that doesn't
Except
make
for
the
the
rest of
hook.
the song bad.
Right.
There's nothing else
Exactly.
that I didn't say it was bad. I said there's nothing else memorable.
I
Because
don't remember.
listen, just because I'm standing in a room and I'm pretty doesn't mean there's no one else pretty. It means that I'm just prettier than. So for that, I mean, the
Uh,
spelling was great because people do remember that, i.e., Saturday night and all of that stuff from the past when they spelled stuff. That's how I always remembered how to spell Saturday on spelling things in school, but that's the blonde, but whatever. So, but that's not to say that the rest of the song wasn't good just because spelling was so great.
Okay, Lisa, if you can take the earpiece and your minions your producers that are standing behind you, feeding you.
No, that was actually out of my own head.
Right. If you can,
So cute.
Prince, can you just give me the first four lines of that song outside of the hook? Just top of your head.
okay. Yeah.
Top
Okay.
of your head.
In the moonlight.
Light, 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 light.
In the moonlight.
In the
The
sight.
starlight.
Songs
I don't know.
old
I
as
remember
the
the
night
melody.
is what I've been dreaming of.
Dreaming
If you
of.
heard me, you haven't shown it. Come on, come
See,
on.
you do remember it.
No,
Right. See?
the problem is that you guys remember. I remember all of these obscure shits about the 80s. That's why we're doing this show about the 80s, right? Other than that,
Right.
it's not a rememberable song other than the METHODOFF. Come on. You know, that's
Lisa, where did that song end up on the charts? This
Why are you
this
doing me like this?
non-memorable song that Frank is talking about. What
I
number
guess.
was it?
it never went to number
Why,
one.
I'm sure it was top 10. Had to be top 10.
Uh,
it was a great song. Come on.
Definitely had to be top 10.
Oh,
What are you
give me
eating
a
today,
second.
by the way, Frank?
it's morning. I'm having my breakfast.
Okay, and what is it? What is it?
It was number 5 on the Billboard 100.
Number
And I,
5 on the Hot 100.
Never went to number
Wow.
one.
that's pretty high, but that's pretty high.
Never
Yeah,
went
that
to
is.
I mean,
pretty-
By the way,
competition.
Lisa, can you tell us what was number one, two, three, and four?
I'm going to, that was my next thing. Like, that's going to take me more than a second.
I'm
You
Prince.
guys
I'm
should have
eating
included me.
a piece of a bagel, which is
Oh, I
really
wish I was eating a bagel.
Bagel. That's what I had this morning. I had a bagel this morning. Bagel day.
Tell us.
By the way, to the listeners, we're recording this in the morning time. Usually we record it in the evening, but
Right, which I like the lighting much better. I'll have to keep that in.
Right. That's why you can barely see me because that is natural sunlight from the morning sun of
Well,
New York City.
I tell
So,
you, my room always looks as sinister as it does. Um, I am somewhere in Panama. Um, in a,
Using a green screen of his red
really,
in,
room.
right
really,
where
you can get
apparently there's a
bagels in
Dunkin'
Panama.
where there's a Dunkin' Donuts right around the corner
Right.
from my
Bagels and Dunkin' Donuts
from
in
my
Panama. Right.
from
Okay.
my bunker. Um, I had Public Enemy still looking for me
Right. Yes. After that
after the
podcast, I can.
after that podcast, in which Lisa we introduced a new word that defines what happens when you have a whole bunch of young black men hanging outside of
Let's
a
move on to song
grocery
number 3.
store with pants hanging
Song number
down their
4.
leads and Tims. You know what we call those?
What do we
Prince,
call him?
what do you call four or more black men hanging outside a bodega?
Goons.
No, goons is good,
Thugs.
but no. What do we call them? What do we call them, Prince? I'm gonna have you say it.
I'm not. I'm not getting involved in this conversation.
Yeah,
Where did we get this word from? Who made it up?
Lisa, we refer to them
Frank made it
as
up.
a
Frank
gaggle
made up the
of
phrase "a gaggle of niggers." That was his phrase for the
Oh,
week. Yeah. Right.
hate that word.
a gaggle of
Song
niggers.
Man.
number
A gaggle,
Gaggle's a fun
gaggle.
word though.
Gaggle.
Gaggle sounds
A
like a great.
gaggle. Yeah, what the fuck is a gaggle? But all right.
So it's a gaggle. It's like, oh my god, we should not go down to Jose's spot. Why? There's a gaggle of niggas around the corner from there.
Oh,
That's
okay.
such fun.
All right. We're
What's
at
going
song
And
number
Prince
4.
and one cat with an empty can of food.
What?
Or cat
Song number 4, Frank.
dry cat food on a paper plate.
Now people know why we don't do this stuff in the morning. All right.
Okay. Song number 4. Bank on your love.
Bank on your love. Yeah, that was a okay. That was kind of a throwaway song. And
Right.
it had its moments, but it was basically a
It's like the left side of Lisa's nose. Filler.
Wow.
okay, whatever.
Don't the right
whatever that
side.
means.
That's time to get a little jealous.
So I am jealous, Lisa. I am jealous. All right.
Right. Yeah, I have nothing.
Give us something.
I have
Just
no
nothing.
comments on that
No,
song.
no comments on that song. But I'm okay with putting filler there. And the reason I'm okay with putting filler there because we just had a whole lot of high energy. We've been
Right.
singing along to, the first. I shouldn't
Two
say the first
songs.
2 songs, right? But the
Right, or 2
second and
songs,
third
okay.
song, right?
Right.
We'll forget about the first song, much like Daryl Hall forgets about Sarah and how she helped write all the hits. So we'll.
She might have, but her sister did, but that's neither here nor there.
She what?
It was her sister, not her. But okay.
It
Right.
was a
And
sister?
she did die. I knew she died. She died of
Yeah.
leukemia.
Yeah, but
Right.
it
No,
was
that was the
that
sister,
was the sister that died, right?
Gianna.
Right,
Okay. Yeah.
right.
But isn't that the one who wrote the songs? The one who died
Gianna.
is the one who wrote the songs.
Gianna.
She
Yeah.
wrote I Can't Go For That, right? I think. I don't know. But yeah, she
And
wrote
he broke.
she wrote
He
the
broke up
Her
with her.
name's Gianna.
Yeah, he broke.
No, Sarah was the sister.
Sarah was the sister, and he broke up with the sister because the sisters got writing credits.
Both of them
sister-
got writing credits.
Yeah,
right?
both of them
Sarah,
got writing
Anna.
credits.
That's because the sister Sarah
Right,
was around a lot. She was referred to almost as a third person in the group.
right. But she was the third person in the group and the second to get no credit.
I think that
Oh, I
but
tell you,
after
boy,
she
this
died is when Sarah left basically Daryl Hall. That's when they broke up.
Right.
After the sister
gets
died.
exactly. And,
Not to take you guys, I finally found the information you're looking for. Basically, he was competing with, or they were competing with Chicago, Billy Ocean, Wham, Foreigner,
you,
Don Henley.
you lost out to Foreigner.
What? Losing out to Wham is not a is
And
not a
Careless
song for that.
Whisper. That you're gonna
Foreigner,
lose a
and
Careless
Foreigner,
Whisper.
and
That's
and
bad.
Foreigner.
That was Careless Whisper.
what?
That was a classic.
And
I
Lover Boy by Billy Ocean was definitely
Wait, what
Lover
song
Boy,
by Billy Ocean?
Lover Boy.
Lover
I
Boy.
wanna be your lover, lover. Hey,
Uh,
I wanna be your right.
You guys have a dance routine with Frank.
That's you know what? I'm officially I'm putting in my hat for Lisa to be a part of our podcast. She can be the save on.
Oh, the one you don't see?
She can be the save on, the
uh,
one that gets all the information. Lisa,
Please let me be
just
Rory.
you can be
Please,
Parks.
I'm begging.
You can be Parks,
Okay.
or you can
I
be
mean,
yeah.
Ashley.
I want to show my legs though, like he does.
Parks is a good looking man. Um.
Uh,
All right, so now we
all
get
right,
past
we're
this fella. Where are we going into?
going to the next song, which
Best
is
song on the album. It has all of the dramatics of a great movie. It's got an intro. It's kind of just sits there, right? And it's very dreamy. And then it builds up into a chorus. It gets dreamy. It goes into a huge Bob Clear Mountain gosh, gosh, and then it just goes up and it ends up just really big. It's this
you
is
want to
the
tell people
song.
the title of this song you're talking about?
This is a song that you would make videos off of. This is the song that when we were growing up and we were taking the video cameras from work and from school, and we were shooting our own little videos and our own little montages. Some
Hmm.
things were better left unsaid. Was just the song that captured and went into 1,000 home videos. It
That is
just
a. I mean, that
works.
is a
It
great song.
just works. It's a great
I
song.
will say that.
Some things are
Yeah.
better left unsaid.
Mhm.
I think it's some things are better left unsaid is not just showcasing Daryl Hall's talent. And by the way, of all the jokes that I've made about Daryl Hall and Lime Tick and just weirdness, the man is amazingly talented. The
Oh,
man is an
definitely.
amazing singer, absolutely underrated in on all. Underrated as a songwriter, underrated as a singer, underrated as a solo artist. Um,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he does have a couple of good solo
if you ever
albums.
want an album in the '90s that you can listen to from end to end, he's got a song called Philly Mood, and the album from one end to the other is just R&B perfection. R&B perfection. And so check that out. But some things are better left unsaid. Absolute minimal on production. Everything has its place, and it is what Hall and Oates are known for, which is that harmony that goes back and forth and in and out. It's a great song, and I think it is the best song on the album.
I mean, I wouldn't call it the best song on the album, but it is a very good song. You're right about, you're right about everything you said about Daryl Hall being one of the, a very one of the best songwriters in of the modern era.
Yes.
Just look at the repertoire of people don't realize how hard it is to write a great song, and to have written several of them is just amazing. It's just amazing, and there's not many people who you can say that about, especially who are actual also artists as well. It's one thing to be a songwriter, but to be an artist as well and to write great songs. I mean, I even gave Billy Joe credit for being a good songwriter.
Well, right.
You
I
know,
mean, listen.
I did give him credit for that.
But it goes back to I was reading something about John Oates, and John Oates says he actually absolutely harbors no animosity for the perception of the way that he looks, partially because he got paid, and that makes sense. But he lost everything as well, and so
Yeah, yeah, I heard that.
he's probably the reason that they're still on the road. Because he lost everything, he went broke, and it was a big story. He went broke, and so he's making bad investments, and just nobody. What he was saying is that there was nobody watching. Right, there was nobody watching, so this wasn't a case like Billy Joel where his managers just stole everything. This was a case where just bad investments, and why do you have to have four houses, and why do you have to have 10 cars,
I
and
mean, it was the
those types of
'80s. It was
things.
the age of excess.
Right,
Everybody was excessive. Everything was excessive. So,
exactly.
you would expect, they wrote songs about that. Everybody was writing songs about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Huh?
But it's we're not looking at TV shows from John's house.
speaking of that,
We're gonna take
I
this
think
detour
that's
now. We're gonna take
yeah.
this detour. Let's take
Okay,
this
yeah, yeah,
detour.
yeah.
Let's
Let's
take
take
this
this
detour.
detour because I think that's the indecide one anyway. So this is a good time to take this detour.
Okay.
And um, that that the idea of hey, let me put a video camera in my house and I'm gonna play some music and I'm gonna put it up on the internet was fucking brilliant and just showed you how Daryl Hall has always is so cutting edge, even though people don't look at him that way. He did stuff that other people didn't even think about, and that now seems like an obvious thing to do.
This is the
You know,
man that lives in upstate New York and kills Bambi on site, right on his
because the
property.
thing gave him a
It,
incurable disease.
so much like African Americans, deer aren't singular, right? And
Oh.
one bad deer doesn't mean you eradicate the whole lot of them. This
He
is this
he
is
built
not
a wall
right.
around his house,
This is
an
not
8 foot wall to keep the deer out.
this
That's
is
all.
not 1994. The Tutsis in Rwanda. This is not what's happening. No, this is you will not have genocide on my watch, Prince.
Every member of his family ended up with Lyme disease because of the ticks
Right.
that these deer carry.
And
So
somewhere in the corner, John Oates is like, and next,
any man who
I bet
cares
you
for
wish
his
you had,
family
I
would do
bet
the
you
same.
wish you had invited me to your house this time, right? All right, I'm sorry. Uh,
By the way, John Oates wrote a book about his about his life. I forget the name of the book. I have it on my Kindle. I'll pull it up. I'll pull it up later. But
Real quick, Lisa, give us a title. How would you describe yourself in one title, Lisa? Just give us a title.
what the title of his book?
No, just give us a title, Lisa.
At least he's been.
I don't think Lisa can hear. I don't think Lisa can hear us.
Yeah, it doesn't look like she can hear us at
She can
all.
hear us, right? So let's look at her, and let's just make the next 3 minutes about her. I do like the lip gloss that she's wearing today.
You
I
like
do
that?
like it's good lip gloss. Good lip gloss. You know what? She cleans up really well for a white girl.
I like that. I like that background picture. I
That is
really like
a
that
great background
picture.
picture. Although I don't think she realizes that the chair just totally clashes it out.
Well, the
The the
you
the,
know, I would say
the who the hell has a cheetah print chair in their house?
the cheetah print is a kind of white trash look. Don't you think?
It is a white
That's
trash
a
look. It is a white trash look. Do you see how she's framing her face though with her fingers? I think
right, right.
that's classic. Okay, Prince, on a count of three, you and I are gonna frame our face like Lisa since she can't hear us. Ready?
Okay,
Three,
all right.
2, 1.
Listen, I can't hear you guys.
No,
We know, we know.
I texted both of you guys. I'm like thinking if I just wait it out, it'll stop.
we know you can't
We
hear
know you
us.
can't hear us,
Oh my
but it's
goodness.
still funny.
I know it's sad because I know that you guys want me to participate, and I'm like, maybe I should just look at their faces and do what they do. If Prince laughs, I'll laugh. If Frank laughs, I'll laugh. I don't even know what they're
Ah, I
saying.
love this. So I think
But
has
I
we
had no idea. I thought I kept hearing you say the word her and Lisa. So I'm like, are they talking about me? But I couldn't hear anything else.
so
Can you hear
I
us now?
can
No?
you hear us now? Good.
Not
So
really, but if you're not talking over each other, maybe.
okay, so Prince, what we're gonna do is we're gonna continue this podcast, and anytime we're gonna refer to Lisa, we're just gonna frame our faces.
Okay, gotcha. Yes, that's good.
Okay.
You're going to do the rest of the podcast, huh?
Yeah, no, no, no. You're
When it's
good.
time
You're
for you
good.
to
Stay there.
talk,
Yeah.
we're going
When it's
to
time right.
Like it's sign
yeah,
language?
Right. We'll give you a notification when it's time to talk.
right.
Okay.
Can you text me?
Right. No, no, no. Even better. Right. Frame your
I
phrase,
have
Prince.
it.
In 3, 2, 1.
How about I go off and come back? I'll go off and come right back.
It's so much funner this way.
Okay.
I did that a minute ago.
Okay. All right.
All right.
No
However
problem.
however you want to do this.
Let's go
Okay.
into going through the motions. What do you think about going through the motions?
Go, 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 go. I really think that they were, they got kind of excessive. They were really really fell in love with that sound.
with
You
that
know, they fell in
Sinclair,
love.
with
Yeah,
that
they fell in
Sinclavio,
love with that.
right?
Right,
It's kind
right,
of like somebody said, "Hey, yo, check this out! I just sampled us." Go,
right.
go,
Go,
oh,
go,
go, go,
go.
go, 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 right,
Right.
right,
And they're like, oh wow, that's so cool.
right.
You know.
It
Somewhere,
was cool and it was funky. It was very funky and it was easy to listen to.
somewhere now, Rogers is sitting there saying, "Flex, flex, 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 flex." Right? That's what he's doing, right?
You know, obviously they fell in love with that.
That
They,
right,
you know, it
right.
was like a new toy,
And
and
and the whole song was built around that.
right.
That's the
I know.
problem that I
You're
have.
right.
That's the problem
Right.
that I have. It's what happens when you have a really hot sample and you build a whole track around that really hot sample, right? Or Public Enemy. You're right. They did do some things that were before their time. So, thank you, Daryl Hall and
Hey,
John Oates, for bringing us the Shockley brothers.
Lisa, you're back.
Lisa, you're back.
I am, and it felt so much better.
Yeah, there you go, Lise.
All
There
right.
you go.
Good.
We had Lise. You'll want to get a copy of this because
So you
we
can
did
hear
a
what we
whole
had
we
to
did
say
a
about
whole
it.
4 minutes on you,
Right. Exactly.
which were the best
Oh,
four
You can't
minutes,
hear
right?
us.
And you couldn't
Let's
hear
talk
us,
about
and
Lisa.
right,
oh man.
exactly. And I'll just say that some interesting things about your chair, right? And
My chair?
yeah,
We talked about
we talked
every
about
aspect
everything,
of it.
every aspect over there.
Yeah, we went one by one.
Right. So you can
Thank
rewind it
you.
and check. You can rewind it and check it out. So let's move on. So what are we up to? We're up to Cold, Dark, and Yesterday.
Cold and it's dark. It's
Listen,
cold.
I
That's
listened
a
to that song and I liked it.
yeah.
That's
That's
because
by the way, that's a
it's
John Oates
John
song,
Oates
isn't
song.
it?
Yeah, it's a
Right.
John
That's a
Oates song.
John
I
Oates
thought it
song.
was a good song. I've never heard it before, but I did hear it a few times and I thought it was pretty catchy and I remembered the chorus.
The
Right.
problem
So,
is that when John Oates has lead on an album, everything just disappears. It's like a totally different band. It's a totally different direction. It's a totally different. I'm not gonna even call it filler. It's just a totally different genre. It's a total. It just doesn't match. It doesn't match. It's the same thing with possession, obsession, right?
That's another John Oates song.
Which
Right.
is a genre. Um, it's almost as if so John Oates spends 6 months in the studio by himself and comes back with 20 songs and goes, "These are all done and ready." And Daryl Hall is like writing on the back of a Dunkin' Donuts
Right.
bag,
He
and
did.
he's like,
On the back of Dunkin' Donuts.
he's like out of touch. What do you think? Right? That's the way that it goes, right?
That's fucked up.
That's the way that it goes,
Oh, right. Yeah,
right?
John Hall working for months.
Right.
Daryl Hall
And,
in
and
10 minutes. Oh,
right,
wait, here's a hit.
right. And John Oates is sitting in the back somewhere saying, "Fucking Stuart Copeland had it better than me. And who does he think he is, Sting, that he can just totally take over?" So, guys, I'm going back to my first. We're going back to our first podcast, though. There's some, the cool thing about the podcast is that they're embedded jokes, right? So if you
mm.
wanna,
So
if
you
you,
have to watch them all.
so you have to watch them all.
That's right. You right, gotta watch them all to
Right.
get
If
the
you want
whole.
to
Get the,
understand the problems that Prince has with Billy Joel, you got to listen to the Billy Joel thing. Right. If you want to understand all the references to, Duran Duran and the Reflex, you got to go listen to that one. And if you want to understand why I just every 10 minutes at least bring the name Teddy Riley into it, then you got to go
Oh,
back and listen to the Bobby Brown and understand why I dropped Teddy Riley into this. So let's move on to All American Girl. Now, really good song, horrible ending of the song. It all falls apart at the end, right? With the falsetto part. But um, the problem. So I like the song, but the problem that I have with the song, again, this is 1984. I'm in the housing projects in New York City, and All American Girls don't look like what they were singing about.
I didn't. That was my least favorite song on the album.
Hmm.
I'll be honest. I really did not like that song at all.
Right.
I just
All
didn't.
American Girl had her act together according to this song. She knew what she wanted, but I don't know that that's the All American Girl.
I thought the song was very pedestrian
Right.
compared to the rest of the album.
Nice
It was
word.
very
Skin
yeah.
tight, so delight, right? That was the
Yeah.
right. That I just had problems with that because that
Yeah,
wasn't what Certainly my mom didn't look like that. And then the horrible part was is that you go saying,
Well, she wasn't an all-American girl, Frank.
right,
Let's be honest.
ooh,
All
so
right. I mean,
so because
that's what they say.
she was a black woman, and this is
It didn't
Just
fit
like
the
Billy
rest of the
Joel and
album.
his Uptown Girl. Billy Joel's Uptown Girl painted a different picture too.
yeah, but Uptown Girl was socioeconomic status. All American Girl is just it's overalls and
All
wearing
American
cowboy
Girl
boots, and
sounded
it's
like a Billy Joel song.
ooh.
Right? That's a. Oh, but
That's
I did find my John Oates memoir on my Kindle. Like as I said, so if anybody wants to check that out, it's called Change of Seasons.
So you know
Um,
what's funny about that
Well,
picture? You know what's funny about that picture? Can you put that picture back up? Now, can you zoom in to get rid of his name real fast? Can you zoom in to get rid of his name? Can you can you okay, now you're just right. Like that. Now, if you were to say who the hell is that, nobody would ever know.
okay, he had a little face work done, but so what? I mean,
He
listen.
had a lot of face work done.
It's all right. It's all right. Who doesn't these days?
I don't. Prince, you have face work done?
Well, you didn't have to.
no,
Okay.
unless you count a haircut as face work.
That's that. Well, all right. Well, again,
Well,
then we get into possession obsession, and we just talked about that. You know,
I
the
have a couple of comments to make about this song.
possession
And I
obsession.
think this, yes, yeah, because I think it has something to do, like you were talking about money in the '80s. There were, like I said, there was a lot of songs
Oh, here you go.
about
Here you go. With
about money.
false idealism. What was it? On the Public Enemy, you were doing false black nationalism. Last week you were doing the
Let's see.
idea of
I mean,
MTV
in this
idols
time,
not meaning anything, and now you're trying to give these guys some Che Rivera,
thank
These
you.
are
anti-capitalism.
Thank
regular
you.
You know,
You already
show.
said it.
come on, come on. Who are we talking to here? What are we talking to? We were talking about a
That
gaggle.
was
We were talking about a gaggle of niggas a couple of weeks ago, right? And now you're talking about. Well, possession obsession is,
no.
another view.
The
On
only point, the only point I want to make is that this song is a reflection of the '80s and the times that it was made in. And during this time period, there was a lot of people writing about certain shit, and a lot of people, the thing that most people was writing about, Big Stalls was writing about, was materialism.
Right, but what's changed? That's all people write about now, and it's 2019. That's all you hear about.
But they're talking about it differently now than the way they were then, because the way they were talking about it then, it was a bad thing.
So,
The
listen,
it
listen,
cha-
listen. I got to shut down this conversation because
I did like
if
Possession Obsession, though.
if
It was
it
a
is
good-
a good song.
if it was that good a song and that important a song, Daryl Hall would have sung it.
He was
That's
so
what it
mean
comes down
John
to.
Oates, man.
That's what it comes down to.
It was
That's
a good song.
That's what it comes down to.
It was a good song, John. Okay,
Right.
it was a good
Wow.
song.
That's Prince. Did you use your one free Kindle credit this month to get that? Because God knows you wouldn't pay for that.
Actually, I have a Audible subscription, so it's
So
because I like to listen to books. I don't know
okay.
who has time to read.
Right.
Actually, he just screenshotted the front of it. He doesn't even have it.
Exactly.
Just screenshotted the picture.
And just a note on this book, just another side note on that book, by the way, to people who want to read it. He kept a journal. John Oates kept a journal from the time he met Daryl Hall when they were both 17 years. Well, when he was 17 years old, for 20 years he kept a journal, and this book is basically his journal from those 20 years. So it's very interesting read for if you want to know the excesses of of the music business during that time period. And you got to remember they touch base with a lot of people that you don't think about. The Tommy Mottolas and all that stuff. People don't realize how they weren't just friends with these people. I mean, they were really good friends with these people. People like Tommy Mottola was the third member of the band. I mean, I know they want to say the chick is, but I think Tommy Mottola was more important than her. But
So
yeah.
Prince, listen, I'm gonna give you one of my grandma's mints because you're sucking
Uh,
dick that bad that you may that you may need to just you may need to
personally,
Right.
rinse your
there
you may
ain't
need to
nothing wrong with
There's
that.
a lady in the room. There's a lady in the room.
There's,
Gee
there's not,
whiz.
you
Gee whiz.
know.
Oh, sorry.
I
Hold
personally
on,
don't
hold on.
suck dick, but I don't have a problem with people who do. Okay,
There you go.
all right.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Thank God.
this part of the podcast is brought to you by Audible, right?
Right.
For your drive to work and working out, this is Audible. And remember, sponsors, Squarespace, I'm looking at you. This is the time that you could be advertising on this podcast. So this
Right,
is
right
the
before they turn it off in disgust.
exactly,
Right. Because you use
exactly.
naughty words.
Exactly. So we can, Squarespace, because Prince
They
and
were
I are going to
extremely
use that.
popular. Let's just say they were huge.
Who's
They
Squarespace?
were
Because
huge.
Squarespace is extremely popular for podcasters wanting to build your own websites. Squarespace. Have an idea, realize it. Back to you, Lisa.
I was simply talking about all of and how popular they were. They were huge.
They were popular for.
Huge.
They have managed to stay popular for a very long time. They still do shows around the world, constantly.
Somebody that I really respect, and we all do, Travis Campbell, said you can't find a person who doesn't like Hall and Oates.
Right, exactly. Finding someone who doesn't like Hall and Oates is really kind of hard to do. That would be very hard to do. Right, Frank?
Listen,
Because you may not like this record, but you cannot not like Hall and Oates for what they've brought to the table.
so first of all, you probably be real surprised the things that I can find reason not to like. Um,
Not with those two.
Hall and Oates, when you go back to the body of work, Hall and Oates was an amazing duo. Again, one of the things that I highly recommend is listen to Daryl Hall's solo work because it's kind of like when you go to Jimmy John's and you just order the meat lovers. You got no bread, no filler. You just have the meat. That's what listening to a Daryl Hall album is like. On the flip side, it's like listening to a Paul Simon album, where you have everything that you want without all of the huff and puff. You know what I mean?
I think that I think you are not giving John Oates the credit that he deserves. I mean, there is a reason why they have stayed together all these years, and it's not just because John Oates goes and gets the coffee or some shit like that or whatever it is you think is happening.
There you go. Um, on that note, I like to remind everybody about how long we've all known each other, despite all of our ups and downs. And I want you to apply the same thing to Hall and Oates, right? Yes, there's a reason that they stay together.
Well, Frank, tighten up on the coffee, motherfucker. Let me say that. All right.
That's exactly what we need. All right. Well, okay. So thumbs up, thumbs down, big bang boom.
I think it's required listening. What? It's required listening. I think it's required listening. Lisa, what is that you got going on there?
She's showing her
I
thumb
could
now.
take it or leave it.
There you go. I think
Ugh.
if you do need required listening, you have Rock and Soul and you have H2O, dramatically better albums to the point that I don't know why we didn't talk about those albums because those were
Because
still
I think
80s.
this album was more important.
Well,
I think this
there you
album
go.
was
There you
it
go.
was the important album that they
Right.
did.
Because
And it was basically their last studio album for almost a decade. So, this was
last memorable.
this was the exclamation point to their glory years.
Yeah.
Okay. That,
All right, I'm thumbs down because I think that there are better things to listen to, like Rock and Soul Part One.
Bobby
whatever
Brown.
Part is.
Rock and Soul Part 1, of course, is a better album. It's nothing but it's a greatest hits album.
That's
What are you
that's
talking
that's
about?
that's and that says something. Or H2O, with 101 and Maneater, just amazing albums, amazing albums. Well,
This whole record leaned on two songs and remixes of those songs. Like It was
Lisa with the
kind of
point at the end of the story.
That's the best point.
Okay.
And
You basically wrapped it up.
as
You're
we
right.
get this
Okay.
as we get this edited, we need to make that
Take that.
part of the right. That needs to be part of the highlight. Well,
Can we
okay.
take that out?
Well, as always, let us know what you think. Let us know what you want us to be going through in the comments below or hi. I want to see what our producer does with that.
Right. Yeah.
It's here. Um, but once again, this is our opinion, and apologies if we insult anybody, but that's how we feel. Prince is a dick rider for Hall and Oates, and I'm going to put them in their right place in
Not that there's
history.
anything wrong with that, by the way.
Right.
But go ahead.
Not that there's anything wrong with sucking dick and dick riding. Right.
Right. Right. Exactly.
Right. So, there you go.
these words.
Lisa, let's do
So early in the morning for such harsh words.
let's do a quick plug for
I like to save the D word for after 9 p.m.
right.
in my home.
Well, most people we're going to be listening to this after 9 p.m. So dick. Lisa,
All right,
speaking of
let's-
dick, how about a plug for your podcast?
Yes, that's right.
Prince has
Lisa
got-
has our 90s podcast coming up. Lisa, you want to tell us a little bit about it?
I don't,
Okay.
but I'd love
All
if
right,
you.
Thank you.
That's a star in the making.
It's called the Golden Goose to you.
Right. Capricorn Jones
Hey,
dropping
listen,
Capricorn,
the
Jo-
dog-
Capricorn,
the cow.
Capricorn Jones
Okay.
dropping the only podcast you have to be invited to listen to.
That's right. The 90s. It's a 90s podcast, all 90s R&B podcast. So if you're interested in that, and you like Lisa, now that you've heard her, you can hear her as she talks about 90s R&B music with her co-host. I don't know who her co-host is at the moment, but it's her and a co-host
And by
and
the way,
guest and all the
This
other
just
fun
came
stuff.
in on my bagel wrapper. I'm reading here for everybody that subscribes to the podcast. I will be sending Lisa's Google Voice number.
Google Voice.
Please subscribe. All right, bye, folks.
Right,
Bye.
no,
Wait, real quick, Frank, I like your glasses.
Thank you. These are my blue blockers.
They're kind of cool
These are
in
my
a yellow kind of way.
Right.
in a 1980 in a 1994 kind of way.
They
Yeah.
block all the. I have to wear them because I'm.
Gamma rays?
They block all the amber rays. Yeah, because
No, gamma, whatever that word is.
Right. See, they're blue. See, right, so let's see if you can see. See how they're blue? Right. They block all the light that kills your eyes because I'm behind a computer monitor all day.
Huh.
All right,
So
y'all,
then
it was fun.
anything to do with vision?
Excuse me.
I don't have anything to do with like vision.
My eyes don't get tired.
No, I'm talking about like seeing wise.
No, I have
Besides
contacts in.
more porn. He can watch more porn with it. That's basically what he's saying.
No. The porn gets watched on this. I'm a 2020s man. I'm a 2020s man. Right.
My bad.
I'm a
And I was just talking about porn, and I was just saying, who is watching porn on the computer now? Who is not just holding it on their telephone? You don't need it more than 2 minutes. I mean, there's no log into a computer, sit down, get
I know
comfortable before
nothing
you're
about porn habits. I don't know what y'all are talking about.
sure.
So
and
I'm the person who doesn't know about porn habits.
there you go. And Lisa is that stepmom that we've been waiting for.
Oh, on my head.
It's a stepmom. Billy, you gotta
nice
listen to me
job,
while
Lisa.
your father's
That's all
away.
I gotta say. Huh?
Billy, you gotta listen to what I say when your father's not here. I'm just your stepmom.
Thank God that Prince doesn't sexually harass me. It's often that I talk to Prince.
It's all right. All right, guys. Take care.
All right, y'all. It was fun.
All right, guys. Well, all right, we're done. We're out. How was that?
Thought it was all right. It was all right. Lisa, did you enjoy yourself? Did you have a decent time?
Yeah, what is that bullshit behind your chair? Is that a closet? But it looks like it's falling down.
Yeah, it's a closet. Yeah, it's a closet for this room
Oh.
because this room doesn't have a closet that I'm in.
Falling down.
No, it's not falling down. It's
It looks like falling down.